There is a nest of yellow jackets on the side of my house here. It's a ground nest. And I've tracked it down to being somewhere inside this bush. You can probably see some of the yellow jackets flailing around here in the air as they come and go. But I can't tell where the entry is to their ground nest. It's a hole in the ground, but there's just so many sticks and leaves and crud and roots and to be able to see exactly where their hole is, no matter how close up I've gotten. So I think what I'm going to have to do is put on some protective gear and get out here and get down on all fours and kind of get as close as I can there to the bush and really watch as they come and go to see, is there a particular place there in the bush where it seems like they're going, and then hopefully I can spot that hole. As once I can see that hole, I can spray some Delta dust in there, and that'll kill the entire nest. So we'll go put on some protective gear here, and I'll be back. This is the Delta dust that I'll be using once I locate the hole in the ground where those yellow jackets are coming and going in that bush. It only takes just a few spoonfuls of this Delta dust to be sprayed directly into the hole in the ground, and that will kill the nest. The way you do that is you take one of these sprayers here, and the Delta dust goes inside right here, and then you press this. This is like a bellows here, and it will spray the dust right out the end there. I don't want to spray it here on my patio, but that's all you have to do. It's not a difficult thing to do. You have to be careful when you're spraying it, of course, because you're getting pretty close to that hole, needless to say. But without knowing where that entry hole is, you're kind of out of luck. So I'm going to again go put on some protective gear and come back out. And first thing to do is to locate that hole and really find out where they are coming and going. I think once I find that entry and can mark it in some way, I'm probably going to wait until the sun goes down and at nighttime and come out here, because they all go back to their nest at night, and I can approach it, much more safely to spray that dust into the hole than during the day when they're all coming and going. As I said earlier, before I go out there and apply that Delta dust, I want to put on some protective clothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a pair of these camouflaged hunting pants there, and those are pretty thick and heavy. But I'm not going to put on just one pair. I'm going to put on two pairs. This pair here will go over the top of that pair there, and this pair here is pretty baggy, so I'm not too worried about it all fitting there together. Then I'll just have on a regular old t-shirt. Then I'm going to put on this hoodie here. And again, it's pretty loose fitting as well. And when everything's said and done, I'll be tying that hood around the top of my head and neck and face pretty tight. Then I'm going to cover that with this jacket here, which is not a real heavy jacket, but it is kind of loose, and it is made of kind of a nylon waterproof outer cloth, so I think that will help protect against any stings. But if a sting can get through that, and then through that, and then through the t-shirt there, I don't really know what to say. Certainly that could happen if I'm bending over and pulling all this clothing real tight against my body, but even then, I think there's going to be some pretty good padding there. So I'm going to go ahead and wear these, pretty thick, good size waterproof boots there. There's nothing going to sting me through those, and real thick socks there as well. I will be wearing a respirator right there, because one thing you don't want to have happen is have one of those wasps, go flying into your nose or your mouth while you're working pretty close up to them, okay? I'll have on these protective goggles, and then I'm also going to put this face shield on, and I have all this stuff already because I do woodworking and stuff, so it's not like I have to buy it or anything. If you're going to be buying all this stuff just for this one task, it's probably going to cost you a little bit of money. But if you have all of this type of stuff already, and you already have it. And then I'll also have these leather gloves on as well. I'm also going to use that masking tape there to tape the sleeves to the gloves and the bottoms of these pants there to these boots there, so that, because what you don't want to do is after you put all of this stuff on, have one of those yellow jackets find its way inside your pants or inside of your coat underneath your t-shirt there, and now they start stinging you because it's going to take you a while to get all this stuff off. But one thing you do need to do, if you do elect to tape the sleeves and your ankles, is double that tape over so that you can find a little tab there real easy when you want to take it off. Otherwise, it won't be easy to get that duct tape off if you do want to get your clothes off real fast, in case one of the yellow jackets does find its way inside. But if you just fold over the very end of that tape after you get through taping, you can just grab hold of that little tab and take the tape off in no time at all. So I'm going to go ahead and get dressed up here with all of this. I'm pretty sure I should be able to get in there and work, pretty close in to that nest, looking for that hole, and digging out those leaves kind of real slowly so I don't just wind up covering up the hole in the process. And hopefully when I get in there real close also, I'll be able to see pretty clearly exactly where those yellow jackets are going into the ground. But right now, it's just a bush with a bunch of leaves all covering up the bottom of it there, and you really just cannot see at all exactly where the yellow jackets are entering their nest. So let me get all dressed here, and we'll see if we can go out there and get rid of that yellow jacket ground nest. One thing I forgot to describe is after I get everything else on, I plan to take this towel here and wrap it around my neck area, and it will help augment that hood there and seal everything up pretty good around my neck up to where the respirator is, and then that face shield should take over after that. And I'm probably going to also wind up just laying another towel like that there just over the top of my head to also provide a little bit of padding beyond what that hood there would do. And again, after I get this all on, I will not be able to narrate anything after that because I will have on this respirator here. So it'll be a kind of silent filming after that. But after I get everything done, I'll come back in and say a few words and let you know how it went. So, mission success. I was able to find the entry to that ground nest. I don't know if you could see it on the camera that well. I went back and looked at the video I took, and since I know where the hole is, I could see it very clearly in the video. But there's really, there weren't that many yellow jackets coming and going, which was good, because I didn't want to get stung. But I just had to wait there for a while until they finally, one or two came in, and then as soon as they did, I could see exactly where they were going. And at one time I was able, I think, to position the camera, because my goggles were kind of fogged up there. I couldn't really tell what I was filming, but I think I positioned the camera pretty good, looking at the replay there, where you can see a yellow jacket fly in and just disappear into a black circle there in the bushes, and that's the ground hole. It looked like it was probably a little bit bigger than like a silver dollar in size, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches across maybe. So not sure how far down that goes. These nests have been found to be massive, underground. But so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wait till the sun goes down, and I'm going to come back out here with a flashlight. I know exactly where the hole is now, and I'll be able to find it and enter that delta dust there into it. There's the duster again. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just real quickly take this outside here so you can take a look at how this works. So, like at the corner of that brick there was the hole. You just stick the duster down into the hole. You gotta take this cap off, of course, and like that, and then you spray. See that? And you spray that dust. You can see how much came out there just with those two little sprays. And if you spray about 5 or 6 of those puffs into the hole, that'll pretty much be enough to kill that nest over for probably about a 24-hour period there. So I'll come back here tonight and be able to do that a little bit more safely, because I think once I start squirting that stuff in there, I got a feeling those yellow jackets are just going to come pouring out of that hole. So I want to try to sneak up on them as best as I can. Okay, so it's dark outside now, so I'm just about all suited up here again, and I'll finish putting on my respirator, my goggles, face shield, and my other glove, and again put this towel around my head and neck. I've got 2 flashlights here, and these can be locked on. So what I'll do is I'm going to lock those on and carry them out there and lay them down right next to where the hole is, and hopefully you'll be able to see that on the recording here. We'll see. And then I'll spray that delta dust into the hole and call it a night. So let me get all this stuff on, and I'll be right back. Again, I won't be able to narrate it as I'm out there because I'll have on the respirator. Back on my patio now. I was able to successfully squirt 6 or 7 puffs of that Delta dust into the hole using the applicator here. As I knelt down there and I positioned the flashlights, you know, to kind of illuminate it so I could see, I realized it was going to be pretty hard to hold my balance, holding the camera in my left hand and the sprayer there in my right hand, and then also trying to lean forward on my knees, trying to find that hole. And with the goggles on and the respirator and everything, it really is kind of hard to see. When I went back and looked at the video actually showed things much clearer than what I could see there myself. But I did see a couple of yellow jackets come kind of flying by, returning to the nest, and I decided to go ahead and just spray some of that Delta dust around a little bit, and then I put the camera down and was able to brace myself on the ground with my other hand that was holding the camera, and lean forward and get the nozzle into that hole to really squirt a lot of that Delta dust down in there. So mission success there. I've been told it could take as much as 24 hours for the Delta dust to kill all the yellow jackets. They'll get that dust on them as they come and go through that hole, but it should eliminate the nest. So we'll wait for the sun to come up and see how things are tomorrow morning. It's morning now, and this is the aftermath. When I came out here earlier, all of the yellow jackets were dead. And some animal had actually come by here during the night after I got through and had dug up the nest. It may have been a possum or it may have been a raccoon. We live right on the edge of the woods here in Florida, so it could have been either one of them. But they had dug out parts of the nest, and it exposed some of the honeycomb in there, in fact. What I have done is I have gone here and I have trimmed away a large part of this bush. There it all is right there. And you can see the hornet nest right there. Now I've actually dug out some of this here myself. The animal had not dug it out quite that amount, but the animal had flung some of this honeycomb out here, so I kind of just stuck it back in there so you can kind of see what that nest looked like. Before I started excavating it, I could tell that it was actually over here was where that entry hole was located. You can see some remnants of that dust, white dust that I sprayed into the entry hole. And then if you look right in there, you can see some of that white dust. So see, it went all the way from over here all the way into there, probably about 8 inches, I would say, into the nest. So, you know, more than enough to completely saturate that entry hole. So as they left the nest through that hole, they got all of that dust on them. And quite surprisingly also, this morning when I came out, I could find very few yellow jackets out here. There's one right there. You see him kind of struggling around. He's not capable of flying or anything with that stuff on him. He's going to be pretty dazed there for some time, and then he will die. But other than just one or two like that, they're gone because I think that animal ate all of them. I was able to salvage a few, and I'll show you those here in just a minute. The animal also tore apart all of the honeycomb that had the cocoons in there, you know, the baby yellow jackets and just tore all of that apart. There's just little tiny pieces of it all around here, and ate that. There's a yellow jacket right there, coming back to kind of look around, see what's going on. Flying, that one there, so he must not have gotten any dust on him. And that was interesting too. I wish I could have gotten out here with the nest completely still sealed up in the ground. You can see that one yellow jacket there is right there flying around the honeycomb, trying to figure out like what has happened to this nest. He must have been away last night. It's just coming back now, but if he keeps flying around there, he'll get some of that white dust on him, and he will perish as well. So what I will do is I'm going to keep excavating this nest, but I did want to show you the way it looks right now before I got too far along, because it is very interesting how they build those nests in the ground like that. And it's a pretty large nest. It's actually much bigger than what I had suspected. So I'm going to go ahead and stop now. I'm going to excavate here a little bit more, and then I'll be back with you. Here are some of the yellow jackets I was able to salvage there. I would estimate there are probably well over 200 yellow jackets just on these paper towels here. So you can see the animal that was in there digging and everything kind of broke up a lot of them into pieces. These three here were still in pretty good shape. I kind of posed them. That one is looking down on the top. This one is bottom, looking at the bottom of it. And there is a side view of a yellow jacket there. Yeah. Not sure why they decided to pick that particular spot to build their nest. I've been told that sometimes they look for, you know, some other hole that's already in the ground, like a snake hole or something that's been abandoned, and they use it to start their nest, and then they just keep hollowing it out. They actually dig out, you know, they tunnel in there and take out tiny little bits of clay and dirt, thousands and thousands of trips, you know, to hollow that out, and they start bringing in all of the materials to build that nest. But no longer a threat. Hopefully we will not get any more in our yard. We've been in this house for well over 15 years, and this is the first ground yellow jacket nest that we've ever had, so hopefully we will not get another one. This particular one was very hard to get rid of. I've seen other videos where a nest has been, you know, like right in the middle of a yard out there or something, and you know, the person just walks right up to it and sprays that Delta dust in there, you know. Or I saw one video where somebody just put a glass bowl over the top of the nest, you know, and let them all just starve to death because they couldn't get out to go get food. And it wasn't possible here because it was just too rough inside those bushes with too many sticks and dead leaves, and then of course the branches of the bushes themselves were probably maybe 20 of them growing up from the ground, and all the roots and everything. So it was just not a real easy way to see exactly where the hole was, or to get back in there to work. And but I was able to find that hole by kind of, you know, putting on my protective gear and getting down on all fours and looking in there. And I really probably still would not have found it if there hadn't been a couple of yellow jackets come flying in there while I was there, and I could see exactly where that hole was. The Delta dust did work very well. The active ingredient in that is called Delta Methrin, and this is 0.05% of that there. Not harmful to human beings or animals. I do recommend wearing a respirator because you're spraying that stuff and it's getting all in the air. You could probably tell that from the video last night. So I would not be there breathing that stuff in, but it it's not, you know, toxic, fatal to human beings by any means. I think that is the same active ingredient like they use in dog collars to kill fleas. But do take precautions nevertheless. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is go back out to the nest and excavate it some more, and get back with you, show you what I found, and then we'll close this video. All through with excavating out the yellow jacket nest. It didn't go back too much further than what you could see in the last segment of this video. You can look there though and see kind of the back part of the nest and how it's kind of rounded in the shape that those nests take underground. I found it interesting as I started to excavate it out and found kind of the end of the limits of the nest, but further back it was kind of hollowed out underneath all these branches where I believe the yellow jackets had actually gone back in there to bring material to their nest, because it was just very soft and kind of hollowed out there. This is what I was able to pull out of the nest. I counted all those holes, like well over 500 individual little holes. Now, those have all pretty much hatched out. I think the parts of the nest that had yellow jackets that were still in the larvae stage was torn out of there by that animal, probably, like I said, a possum, and the possum just ate, or the raccoon just ate that part of the nest outright. That's what I've been told they do, but left the parts that had already had yellow jackets hatch out. But still, much bigger nest than what I had suspected there. Yeah. Again, I trimmed away all of these bushes here just so I could get in there to excavate the nest and be able to see what really happened. If you ever find a nest out in a field or a yard like this, I think it's a lot easier to treat. But what I was up against, if you kind of go around maybe this side of the bush or look at that bush, is all I saw was yellow jackets going into a bush like that. And when I got as close as I could and bending down, there was just no way to tell where the hole was. And the way it turned out, the hole was probably about 10 inches back into the bushes there, but you just really could not tell without getting down and almost putting your face back in there. So that's the reason I used all of that protective gear. But once I could see where they were going, it was real easy just to squirt that Delta dust into the hole, and then it took it from there. I highly recommend using the Delta dust. It seemed like it worked good. It's supposed to be pretty much harmless to animals. Again, I would recommend wearing a respirator so you don't breathe it in when you're puffing it into the nest. So I'll go ahead and end this video here. Good luck in your yellow jacket hunting, and hopefully this video will help you some.